Okay, let me just do quick updates. It doesn't take long to record. I'll be in the light in a second. I'm just checking some news. I already uploaded that Sunday sermon. I don't know how it sounded like because it was windy, but I review that over the next few days besides all my other stuff. I debated, should I do a quick update? I might title this one, and now I'm talking about not getting titles, just like I found that video that has 1,700 and something views on YouTube, my video I made, and it's called the castration video, like I said, because Pops was kind of like talking about stuff I remember. I didn't review that video, and I tried to like sway it into like, and so the point of that was what drives us, like hits, views, and all. I'm going to title this Glenn Beck Flees from the State of Texas, as well as storms off a CNN set, which happened earlier today, I believe. Because I talk media and I speak about media. What happened I'm a news listener, and the reason that I listen to liberal people on talk radio. I also listen to conservative people. But a lot of the times when the only time I'll have like radio on like that or news is if I don't sit around and listen with the headphones. I'm cleaning, working, doing stuff. Oftentimes I put my teaching CDs on, which I'm once again going through a course by a great Harvard professor who teaches, it's actually called Skeptics and Believers, Religious Debate in the Western Intellectual Tradition. One of my great courses, got them from great courses, because I can listen maybe for 30 minutes while I'm working, and sometimes I'll think, boy, we can really get a good education. And I wonder why so many people, some do, but a lot of people do not. And then I realized that you have to develop an appetite for them. Now, when I'm listening to the news and talk radio and all, if I listen to somebody that the first 30 minutes or possibly the whole hour, no information, whether you are liberal or conservative, if you're giving me some information and you're not just driven by political bias, I'll listen to it. I listen to NPR News. Very liberal. I'm not a conservative. I'm nothing. But the reason Beck is now fled off the set of CNN earlier today, and I've been critical of Beck the last month or so, kind of gave that word about the Mormon brothers, Romney and Beck, is the CNN host asked him a question whether or not the Blaze and Mercury Radio, the media company Glenn Beck established in 2011 when he left Fox News, is kind of on the verge of, it's kind of been imploding for a while, people that read the news, and he relocated to Texas, Dallas, Texas. Then he got into like a little war with Alex Jones from InfoWars, who is based out of Austin. And so kind of the media thing. And the other thing is questionable always is a big part of the media empire of Glenn Beck's imploding empire is websites. And I think it's just that one he has. And over time I'll look at different, media people, and they talk about the millions of dollars it takes and the 30 or 50 employees for one website. And some people have paid upwards to, $1 million just for somebody to start it for them. And some of my rinky-dink websites, that's what they started for some people. Now, of course, if they had no way to do it their own, and as I looked at some of that, I thought the benefit that we have. When I listen to the radio, there's a commercial that comes on when I listen to talk radio locally. And the commercial says, radio. And I loved radio, and I did radio for many years. But it said radio. And all the or media are challenging one another in our new day. But it says radio. It reaches more people, more advertisers. It's the way to go. All of the old media is challenging the technological revolution, and anybody that knows anything about newspapers, media, everything is going trending towards online websites and all this type of stuff, podcasts. That's just the trend. But on that radio commercial, it said, and don't forget, radio's the way. It reaches more people. And then it says, and find out more information on our website. But I found it interesting that even in Beck's situation, one example out of many, they put like 50 employees, 30 employees just to do a website. I mean, on a weekly basis, costing maybe, a few million a year just for this whole employee and organization. Keep it simple. Whatever you feel you need to communicate, do communicate that. There were times where I would listen, I'd have Glenn Beck on our local 1360 AM radio, listen to him for a while. There were times after 1 hour I would go to my philosophy teachers. I said, there's nothing. You one time talking about pancake house, and some analysts are saying it's because he became anti-Trump. I remember listening to some of the really bad things that were broadcast on his show about Trump. But he had a guest speaker on once on his radio show that said, and if Trump gets elected, will some patriot rise up to assassinate Trump, to take him out? I thought, when I heard that comment, I thought, you don't have to be pro or anti-Trump. You have anybody on the radio that calls for that. Now, a little of the politics. Sarah Sanders, Trump's press secretary, they make fun of her, and she's a little overweight. They make fun of her looks. And the other day, she was in a restaurant, and they asked her to leave. So she left. It's sad it's that way, all right? But what I want you to see is, as a newsreader, ABC, NBC, and CBS, their online news websites, two of them said, and I think the Colder Times had it in there too. They're an affiliate with USA Today, but I'm not positive. Two of them said, Sarah Sanders says, but we don't know if it's true. Now, the media has never covered any events that were in that category, low level. If Michelle Obama's staff said this happened, that happened. But the media is saying, supposedly, this is what Sarah Sanders says. When Trump was doing the deal, one of his recent deals, some of the media outlets said he said he met with, whether it's the leader of North Korea, whatever, something of that example. And I thought, but they're saying, but you have no proof. So when Mr. Obama and others made deals, some that were not good deals with Iran, did the media report Mr. Obama says did something with Mr. Kerry? That's what people see. And I remember CNN did a really bad thing about a year ago. There was some person that was critical. He was on Reddit. I'm also on that Reddit side, on all the others. And he made some, I don't remember exactly what it was. He was on the conservative side of the aisle. He made some comments. CNN tracked him down. They found out who he was, and they made personal contact with him. Then CNN said, we talked to him, and they put it out on the air. And we told him that we'll keep his name silent. It was simply somebody that had their own voice that CNN did not like. And so they found out who that man was, and then they publicly threatened him and said, we talked to him about whatever comment he made, and we told him we will withhold who he is by name because his life could be in danger. But if he continues to speak on the right side of the aisle, then we will release his name. And I remembered the media, not the mainstream media, but the other media, they actually rightfully said CNN made a threat. They told that guy, if you speak against our political view, then indeed we'll release your name. acknowledging that you might get killed if we expose you like that. Now that was wrong. Glenn Beck defended CNN. I remember listening. He said, well, CNN contacted him and, they asked him if he wouldn't, and we think that was good. So it wasn't just a matter of whether Beck moved to the left of the aisle, to the right of the aisle. It was just the inability to communicate whatever it is you're trying to communicate effectively. This one, when I say update in this manner, it's like an issues update, news update. When I'm teaching scripture, it's focused on that. And I don't put aside my Christianity when I try to speak on politics. I try to say, don't be driven, be informed. I went to the Mass I went to today was the Spanish Mass. But I had I started looking at those verses on Friday night, the ones I spoke on today. And I liked it because they had those verses in the pamphlet today. But if you're going to communicate and you do news, then do news. I remember listening the whole hour with one time. And it's just talking, and there's like a 3-hour show, I believe, at least the affiliate out of Corpus Christi that he's on. So he kind of got into some wars and fights and things. Bishop Mulvey on the radio, I listened to the Catholic Mass earlier today, the English one. Sometimes I attend that one. That one I think starts at 9:30. But I try to go to a service that my daughter's out of town with my son-in-law, her husband. So I didn't do it at her house. Bishop Mulvey had a letter about the immigrant crisis. Bishop Mulvey in the letter read to the diocese here. We are a cathedral city, Corpus Christi, for this region of South Texas. That's why you have a bishop that resides here. And it's basically spoke in defense of the immigrants. And then at the end, and the priest read it, I heard that on the live Mass on the radio. But then he had to put a postscript, P.S. Said Mr. Trump has actually made an executive order, which most of you know about, to kind of try to fix what's going on. But even Mr. Mulvey said, we had seen the children crying. Of course, I'm not going to, I'm pro-immigrant. I'm for those kids. But look what we get out of that, what you have seen. There are many times our media purposefully does not let you see atrocities. Now, I've spoken on those. I've got a history of speaking on them. Military-backed Iraqi soldiers, particularly things that happened also at times when Mr. Obama was president. But in this particular case, right before he was leaving office, the media wanted a successful thing to kind of boost the Hillary campaign that Mr. Obama obviously supported Hillary. She was his Secretary of State. But I remember thinking, why are we doing Mosul now, a city in Iraq? And the army that we backed with air power, ground power, they are a particular branch of Islam. You have the Sunni Shia division. And many that were in the Iraqi army were obviously, that city was an ISIS city, but it was also the other division of Islam. So you would know that the soldiers we backed would go in and persecute and maybe kill kids and everything else. But the media showed that taking back of Mosul, still during the Obama administration, as a wonderful success. And I knew that, and then I read reports how some of the Iraqi soldiers, backed by U.S. power, were just shooting blind into people that were hiding. I think one was like underground, then just shot in there. And then many of the women later, the wives and all, and the kids, said we've been separated from our husbands because the Iraqi soldiers, backed by the U.S., are on the other religious division. Their husbands were not ISIS, but they said they just persecuted us. And those Iraqi soldiers, and their tanks and all were flying their particular Islamic flag as they went in. Now, why didn't the media show you the pictures of the people that were shot dead? Not just separated, murdered. Why didn't the media show you the pictures of when Mr. Obama made the decision under Samantha Power, former UN Secretary, who's come into some heat this last year. And when we went in and backed the killing of Gaddafi in Libya, then the other people that took over, and those radical groups that did indeed have more power after Gaddafi was removed, and then they took black kids because they were anti-black. Gaddafi, if Libya is in Africa, it showed to you right up here if I could find it real quick. Libya is right off of the northern tip of Africa. So in Africa, all Africans are not black, okay? But you do have, particularly in the southern part of Africa, the media also made fun of Sarah Palin for that. Because one of the countries in Africa, Africa is a continent, but one of the countries is actually called South Africa. And so they asked her a question once, like a trick thing. Oh, you think South Africa is just the southern part of the continent of Africa? How ignorant you are. It's a country in Africa, correct? But geographically, how would you describe the southern part of the continent? Would you not say the southern part of the continent, South Africa? Sure, you could do it. But it's the game they play. And so after the Obama action of the removal of Gaddafi, Gaddafi was supported, and he supported the black-skinned Africans. And he felt they were a noble race, and he was not black-skinned, Mr. Gaddafi, the former General Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. So the enemies of Gaddafi, or the people Obama and our country supported, were anti-black. This is why Farrakhan couldn't believe what Obama did. I'm not saying I agree with Farrakhan. So then, during the war, before he was killed, they went after his daughter, and she was pregnant and everything. You had the mercenaries coming from the sub-Saharan part of Africa. Black-skinned mercenaries fighting for Gaddafi against the U.S.-backed rebels and everybody else. And some of the reporters asked, and why are you here? They were speaking French. That goes back to colonialism. They said, is Mr. Gaddafi paying you to come up here to Libya to fight? They said, no. He's always loved us. He's always been a supporter of us, of oppressed black people on the continent. Amazing thing, isn't it? So after he was killed, for the first time in years, many, many years, you had black kids and black people being sold on the open slave market in Libya during the time that Obama was president. And the media not only never wanted you to see that, they never wanted you to hear that. So those are good examples. If all your information is, I seen it, what do you mean? You saw it on that thing, some tube? Or did you inform yourself? Well, how did you find out about it? It's not hard. You can read media, sites of world events, current. So if you want to engage in it, be informed. Of course, I was upset seeing the kids crying. But that same media would cover that black kids have been sold on the slave market. And if you try to even expose it, they would try to shut you up. So don't ever forget that. So, all right, this is just the update. I'm not sure. But I'll put something like that, because Beck is now the Blaze Company, Mercury, all of that's imploding, okay? It's nothing new, those who look at that stuff. And he's selling his house. He put his house on the market in Dallas, and some insiders think he's going to move to Los Angeles. I don't think I'd go there. But he's got a smaller office in LA. And all I would simply say as a critique is, why would you have, they said even the redesign of their website, their one website, it's taken months to redesign it, even though you have staff, even though you're putting millions of staff, just communicate. It didn't take nothing for me to make this. And then I'll put it on YouTube in a few minutes. Just be effective. All right, so I want to bless you guys. This is the little news update. God bless everybody.